Ready? Okay. Today we're starting our unit on quadratic functions. So, tests are graded. I don't have an average for you, and I don't have the grade breakdown, but let's do it this way. If you would like to know what you got on the test, you can come see me after our notes, okay? So, brand new chapter. So I'll make sure we're taking notes. Yes. They're not updated. Rebecca. Not really. The question was, do I feel good after grading the test? And the answer is not really.
I tried.
How many people Let's honest moment. How many people studied? For longer than 5 minutes?
I studied.
What you guys should do is actually do your group test as if it was a test. Like, over and over again. You memorize how to do the problem and then you get an A.
Something that may have been said before a few times, but it's okay. Okay, either way, it's getting warm in here. All right, so let's maybe change our luck for this next unit.
Okay, when's our next test?
Your next test is in about a week and a half. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, and since this is the only test in there, if you didn't do well, your grade, totally plummeted. But if you did really well, far better. So here we go. All right. Anybody remember what a quadratic function is? Lorenzo? Yeah, good. So a quadratic function is a function of the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are all real numbers. And a cannot be equal to 0. Okay, so the big thing that you want to know or have knowledge of is, as far as these problems are concerned, is that anything that has an x squared in it is a quadratic function. Okay, so anything with an x squared is a quadratic function. Okay, because if there was no square term and it was just bx plus c, well then you'd have a linear equation, and that's a line. A little different. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start out by solving equations based on how we have done in the past. Now, sometimes the tricks and tools that we have learned aren't going to work, so we're going to look at one other way of solving them today. And we'll get to that in a little bit. That's called completing the square. We're not going to do that quite yet. We're just going to use the knowledge that we have to do these first few problems. So, 5x squared plus 8x. Can somebody tell me how they think we might go about solving this? Crystal, did I give you extra credit sheet? Oh, it's right here. Okay, Sloan?
Can you take out an X?
Excellent. Everybody give it up for Sloan. So she took out an X. How did you know that that's how you were supposed to do this, as opposed to some other way of doing it?
Well, I just thought to simplify it,
Make it less crazy. Okay, that works. Anybody else have another way of figuring out how we do which way, Olivia? Okay, it's a simple way of doing it. Okay, Samantha? That's, yeah. Okay, good. So same thing that Olivia was saying. So the basic thing I want you guys to be on the lookout for is the fact that we have an x squared and an x both in the same equation. That's how you know you're going to have to factor in some way. Okay, if you only have an x, or you only have an x squared, then you can get all the x's to one side, everything else to the other. But if you have them both within the same mathematical sentence, you have to do it this way. You have to do factoring. Okay, so what next? Now that we have it set up like this, what do we do next? Aiden. Eventually. Sloan?
Divide it by
Not quite dividing by x. Oh, I have something stuck to my foot. Any other ideas? Okay, so remember this is the one where we set each of these equal to 0. We all better be paying attention, especially after that test. This was on that test. Oh. God, I just had a heart attack. Okay. Okay. There are no words. It is Friday. It is Friday. Yay. Thank goodness it's Friday. Okay, now what? Deanna. Now we subtract 8 from both sides. Oh, you guys. Then what? Yes, give it up for Deanna. Those are the words that a teacher hates to hear. Followed by, oh, we have a test today. That's one that teachers never want to hear that. Yeah. If you walk in and you're surprised there's a test, usually there's notice that there's a test that's going to happen. The second one is after the test has happened, oh, that was on the test?
Sorry.
Uh-huh. Aiden, go ahead.
Then you divide by 5.
Divide by 5. So x equals negative 8 over 5. Benito, questions? Everybody give it up for Aiden.
In all honesty, really, what question?
I don't know which number it was off the top of my head. But that was it for that problem. Yep.
Don't plug it in.
Plug it in order to check.
Y equals 5x squared plus 8x plus 3.
Ah, okay. Yeah, we're going to get to that later. What we're doing right now is solving these. So if... maybe this is why we did not do well. Stop talking. In this particular problem, what we're doing is we're solving for the x-intercepts, which we'll get to where these fall on the graph a little bit later, but you're thinking of something that's a little different. Okay. Now what? Alan.
Subtract 11x on both sides.
Good. Everybody give it up for Alan. Okay. I'm taking direction from you. We've done these before, Alan.
Then you do the diamond.
That's good. Everybody give it up for Alan again. Then what? Alan?
You put a 28 on the top and negative 11 on the bottom.
Good. Now, why 28 instead of 2? Samantha.
Because you have to combine the A and C.
Right. Exactly. 14 times 2 is 28. Always multiply the first and the last. Alyssa. Good. Negative 7, negative 4. Everybody give it up for Alyssa and Samantha for the last 2 things. All right, then what? Sloan.
Then you put 14x on the top.
Good. 14x on top of both of these. And if we can reduce, we want to reduce. So can we reduce either of those, Deanna?
14 on 14 over negative 7.
Uh-huh. Good. 2x negative 1. Good. Everybody give it up for Deanna. That's a 2x and a negative 1. Sorry about that. What about the right-hand side? 14x and negative 4. That's
I was asking a question about the left-hand side because this is something that happens to me when I'm taking tests. Why wouldn't it be negative 2 over 1?
It can be. I mean, it doesn't really make a huge difference when you're solving.
Okay.
Other questions? Aiden, want to continue?
Yes. The 14x over 4 reduced to 7x to negative 2.
Good. Everybody give it up for Aiden. So 2x minus 1 and 7x minus 2 equals 0. Cool. Now what? We're almost done. Yeah, Tyler. Good. 2 separate equations. Everybody give it up for Tyler. You guys tired today or something? Or did I kill the mood with the whole test news?
You killed the mood.
I killed it? So it's okay. I will take responsibility for that. Although, it was all of your scores that created the test mood. All right, now what? Alan.
You add, for the 2x minus 1, you add 1 to
Mhm.
the 0.
Good. And then, I'm going to let you finish it out. Then what?
And then you divide by 2 on both sides.
Good. So x equals 1/2. Everybody give it up for Alan.
Yay.
All right, next one. How do we solve that? Go ahead, Aiden.
Alright, so you would add 2 to both sides.
Good, and then?
And then you would divide by 7 to both sides.
Good, so x equals 2 sevenths. All right, everybody give it up for Aiden. Yay. All right, how are we doing on questions?
No question.
No questions. Okay, next problem. Slow.
I can't convert the whole term over, can I?
This whole thing? If you wanted to, you could, but it might be easier to move these to the other side.
No, yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah, you can do that.
So can I add x and subtract 2?
Good, let's add x and subtract 2 at the same time. So add x and subtract 2. So we end up with x plus 2, x minus 2. I'm going to put the x first and then minus 2 at the end. Everybody give it up for Sloan.
Woo! Slow.
Okay. Then what? Yes,
Wait,
thank
you can also put that as x plus 2, 2x minus 2. Because you have x minus 2 and like. Oh, wait, no. Wait.
What?
Well, you have 2x minus 2, so.
Okay, so these are being multiplied by each other, and these are added on to the end. So we can't really combine them. Any ideas? Box. Okay, that's a good one.
So you would put.
Go ahead.
Plus 2 and then x minus 2.
Okay, so if we do that, I'm going to do this over to the side here. So x plus 2 and x minus 2. So x squared, 2x, negative 2x, and negative 4. And then if we combine like terms, so that's the same thing as FOIL, right? So if we combine these like terms, what happens to them, Thane?
They'll cancel each other out.
And we're left with x squared minus 4. Good. Excellent. Everybody give it up for Thane. We're almost there. What would be a good next step? Tyler. Good. Combine like terms. So negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. Everybody give it up for Tyler. That was so weak. So weak. Rebecca. Better. Rebecca. Good. Okay, so what goes in the top? Good. In the bottom? Perfect. Everybody give it up for Rebecca. That was even weaker. Let's get a little oomph going, okay? Okay, Deanna. 3 and negative 2. Good. Everybody give it up for Deanna. Last period we started talking about, I think the mood was kind of the same. We started talking about cuties last period. Anybody know what a cutie is?
It's like those oranges that peel easily.
Was it oranges?
They're yummy.
Is that what they're
That's what they're called. This one doesn't have the sticker on it, but they're very small oranges that are seedless and really easy to peel. They're clementines. They're very good. All right, now what?
Just bite.
Sloan.
Shoot the peel.
You take
Start
both
to peel.
terms and have it equal 0.
Good. Okay, everybody give it up for Sloan. Okay, now, without actually doing this, what do I get for my answers? Tyler?
X equals negative 3 and X equals 2.
X equals 2. Everybody give it up for Tyler.
Yay!
Cool. All right, how are we doing on questions?
Pretty good.
Last one of this type. And then we'll move on to something a little different. We're almost halfway. I don't know if that makes things better or worse, but we're almost halfway. Okay, here we go. Whoop, and we're fading out. All right, here we go. So, now, in this one, do we have both x squared and x in our equation to start out with? No. Where's the x in there by itself? It does not exist. There's an x squared, and that's it. So this type of problem we can solve the way we would solve if it was just x by itself, which means, Alyssa, oh, it looks like it could be a difference of 2 squares, but difference, what is the symbol for difference? Subtraction. Do we have subtraction? It could be 7x plus 2, something, but we don't have that difference. It doesn't work if it's not a difference. We will eventually. We'll get that, what you're talking about, but we can't do it that way. So if it was just 49x plus 4, how would we solve it? Subtract 4. Okay, let's try that. So 49x squared equals negative 4. Then what? Again, if it was just 49x equals negative 4, what would I do? Divide by 49. Good. So x squared equals negative 4 over 49. What is the opposite of squaring something again? Square root. Good. I think I heard somebody say I.
Sorry.
That's good.
Oh, okay.
Why? Why is I good?
Because it just means the same thing as
Square root of a negative. Excellent. Okay, good. So can somebody tell me what they think this comes out to when we actually take the square roots of everything? Olivia? Okay, 2 over 7. The square root of a negative 1 is I. Perfect. Everybody give it up for Olivia.
Yay.
Now, I'm going to put a plus or minus in front, and let me explain why. Everybody write that plus or minus, and then I'll explain where it comes from and why it exists. So, if I ask you all, what is the square root of 36? What is it? 6. But, could the square root of 36 also be negative 6? Why? Right, a negative times a negative equals a positive. A positive times a positive also equals a positive. So the way to write that in a little bit more of a concise way is like that. Okay, so anytime we take the square root, we want to put that plus or minus in front. Okay? Sloan?
I just wanted to know what we took out to make it. I'm trying a hard time trying to say what I want. So we have negative 4 over 49.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how we. Can I say simplified it?
Yeah.
Into being 2 over 7.
Right, yeah, so we can also rewrite this as the square root of negative 4 over the square root of 49.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That help?
Yeah, that helps.
Good. Other questions? All right, so here let's move on to the next topic, which is completing the square. Okay, let's just take a trip back to factoring perfect square trinomials. Okay, so if I, let's do this. X squared plus 8x plus 16. Does anybody remember what that is squared? So the way we factor perfect square trinomials, the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 16 is 4. So this is x plus 4 squared. Just like, let's see, x squared minus 12x plus 36 would be, good, x minus 6. Everybody give it up for Sloan. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to follow that same pattern with these next several problems. Okay, so we want to add something on the end and then write it in squared format, or in factored form. Okay, so can somebody tell us x squared plus 14x? Can someone tell me what they think we have to add on to x squared plus 14x to complete the square? Samantha? 7. Okay, so good. Half of 14 is 7, right? And we actually want to take that 7 and square it to get what goes here. 49. Good. So, excellent. Everybody give it up for Samantha. So what does that actually look like in factored form? So what is it? Something squared. 7. Just 7? X plus 7. How do I figure out whether it's a plus or a minus? What?
The 2 signs.
These?
In the equation.
Good, okay. So if there's a minus here, then there should be a minus here. If there's a plus here, there should be a plus there. All right, so now everybody look at the next one. What do we think we're adding to this to complete the square? Alan? 25. Good. How did you get that?
Because the square root of 25 is 5.
Good.
Times 2 is 10.
Good. Everybody give it up for Alan.
Nope.
Oh, that was not okay. Everybody give it up for Alan.
Ooh, yeah.
Somebody straight up said no. It's not nice. Okay. X squared minus 10x. So how does that look in factored form? Deanna?
X
Good. Everybody give it up for Deanna. You were not allowed to say no.
Yay!
Sloan.
I was just wondering, what does this lead to? Like, is this used for something?
Yes. Crystal, do you use completing the square at all in pre-calculus?
Yes. All the time.
Does it lead
All
to
the time.
something else?
All the time. Yes,
Okay.
it does. Actually, you do that. And with
then
a lot more
like-
complicated numbers, you actually have to think about it.
Yeah. Liz. Right here? What's half of 10? And 5 squared is? So you're taking half of the middle term and then squaring it, or half of the middle coefficient and squaring it. All right, cool. Let's do this last one. Can't escape this assignment without everybody's best friend, fractions. Okay, so how many people agree that half of 11 is 11 halves? Half of 11 is 11 halves. Is that true? They mean the same thing. Meaning, what is half of 10?
5.
And what is 10 divided by 2?
5.
So I could write it as half of 10 or 10 divided by 2, right? Okay, so now if I square that, 11 squared is what? And 2 squared is 4. So that's this piece of it. Now what goes in the parentheses over here?
Oh, that's
Well, let's just, okay, so some of us are getting freaked out by that, but let me just draw your attention to the fact that, whoops, wrong one, this one. I don't want to mess you guys up. Okay, now what? Aiden,
X minus 11 over 2.
why'd you get
Because
minus?
of that.
Right, because of the minus right there.
Oh.
Okay, everybody give it up for Aiden.
Yay!
You need that last number.
This number, are you asking? Do we need this number? Yes. Because we're going to, yes, you'll see why in right now. Okay. Yes, right. That's where we're going next. Oh, good. Crystal remembers. Yay. Okay, so here we go. Solve by completing the square. So like we've talked about, we have a couple of different ways of solving quadratic equations. We can do the diamond. Try that. If we have x squared and x both in the same equation, or we can, if we only have an x squared, we can get the x squared to one side, everything else to the other. But sometimes you will try the diamond and it won't work, and that's when you need another tool, and that's what completing the square is another tool. So if we tried to use the diamond on this, we'd have 1 in the top and -4 in the bottom, right? Are there any numbers that multiply to 1 and add up to -4 at the same time? No, so this does not work. So we want to use the method completing the square to figure this out. So this is how we go about doing that. We want to notice how we started out in completing the square with just an x squared term and an x term. We want to do the same thing here. So we're going to subtract the 1 from both sides to start out with and leave a big gaping hole there. Okay, so don't actually fill that hole in. Why? Sloan. Let me cover this up and put a line here.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, you have to put half of 4.
Good. Half of 4 is? And 2 squared is? So if I add a 4 here, what does this look like squared? X minus 2. Good. Okay, so that's what we just did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is the one rule that we learned back when we started doing Algebra 1 and solving these equations? Whatever you do to one side, you have to. Okay, at this step, we literally took that 4 out of thin air and put it in this equation on the left side. So in order to keep it balanced, we have to do what with it as well? Add 4 over here as well. Okay, we want to make sure we keep it balanced. So -1 plus 4 is what? 3. Ooh, it's going to bug me if I do that. Okay, so now, excellent. What's the opposite of squaring? Square root. Square root. Anytime we take the square root, we put the plus or minus in front. We already talked about y, remember. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a positive is also a positive. So if this was just x minus 2 equals 3, how would I solve it for x? And add 2. So how do we think we could solve this one for x? Add 2 to both sides. But we can't combine the 2 and the root 3, so this is actually easier than that one over here because we don't have to do the math. We can just rewrite it like that. Okay, questions? Yes, Rebecca. Put what? No. If it was a square root of a negative 3, then we could, but it's not a negative square root. It's a positive one. Yes. Other questions? Okay, last problem, and then we're on to homework. Okay, so if I want to solve this one by completing the square as well, what would be the first step I would do? Like, if you look at the last problem as a guide, what do we do first? Go ahead, Sloan.
You add 5 to both sides.
Good. So we're left with x squared plus 2x plus a whole equals 5.
And then
Half of 2 is?
half of 2 is 1.
And 1 squared is?
Is
1. Okay, can I only add a 1 to the left?
You have to add it.
You also have to add it to the other side to keep it balanced. Okay, now the factored form of this is what? X squared plus 2x plus 1 is...
X plus 1.
Good. X plus 1 squared, and then on the right side, 5 plus 1 is 6. All right, almost there, Tyler? Square root it. So x plus 1 equals plus or minus root 6, and then the last step, subtract 1. Excellent. Everybody give it up for Sloan and Tyler on that problem.
All exhausted.
Woohoo!
It's Friday and we're all tired. It's like a Monday, but it's a Friday.
Period. This period has just been so strange over the last few days. When we were starting to do our group test review, it was like the Twilight Zone was here. It's really weird. Okay, questions? Okay, everybody go ahead and take out your book, start on your homework.